Hey, welcome to Recruiter Roundtable Season 2, number 13, with our first Friday special guest, Harry Latos, CEO of Acquire. He is a email marketing, cold email guru, and he's going to impart his wisdom on us today. So, Harry Latos, take it away.
Thank you very much, Tom. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. It's great to meet all you guys. What I'll do today is I'll just basically share my screen, go over a short presentation. Feel free to chip in at any point, right? It could be very informal, but really what I want everyone to leave this session from today was at least a few tools that you can use, or maybe a framework. I've even got a Google Sheet with some AI integrations that I can share with everyone, basically to create AI personalized emails at scale. All sorts of tools, but I basically just want to share some wisdom, hopefully, of the things that I've learned over the time I've been doing this. And hopefully you can incorporate it into your recruiting process as well, or business development process. So without further ado, I get my screen shared and just let me know if you are able to see this. Is that coming up now?
Yep.
Perfect. Fantastic. So this one, of course, is email marketing, which is sort of our speciality, but with a bit of a twist on AI as well. I know it's a very hot topic and there's so much flying about AI, whether it's a good tool to use or not so good in the recruiting process, but there's some interesting things we started to do with our campaigns that have been very fruitful using AI. So I just want to basically shed some light on that and share that with you guys. So just to start, it's a bit of a stat that I've seen, and it's 99% of Fortune 500 companies now use AI in their recruitment process. This is a stat that I came across on LinkedIn not long ago, and it compares to apparently only 35% of recruitment companies actually currently incorporate AI. So there seems to be a bit of a gap between the Fortune 500s and just standard recruiting companies with their use of AI. I think the recruitment market potentially is a late adopter to AI because of the reliance on personal relationships, which is very important, everything being networking based, and somewhat of a lack of development and innovation. So I think there's a key opportunity in the recruitment market to start leveraging automation AI to stand out above your competition, right? The opportunities here really to save time, save costs, work on higher leverage activities. So actually speaking to clients, speaking to, potential candidates, or just networking in general, rather than having to do the day-to-day admin tasks, and actually to use a smaller team. Something that I think some business owners potentially struggle with when they're growing the team is just the management of the team itself, especially if nowadays people are incorporating virtual assistants. Sometimes it can be hard to keep track of all, where now AI can actually do a job of virtual assistants just as well, but for a fraction of the cost. So these are some of the benefits. But contrary to some people's belief, I don't think AI is here to take recruiters' jobs at all. I think every recruiter has a unique skill set. It'll be very, very hard to replicate for a lot of roles. So I think I don't think AI is here to take anyone's jobs. That's just my opinion. I think we can use it to enhance what we do. So some obviously key things that recruiters can do to use AI today. The one that we specialize in is business development, but you can also use it for candidate sourcing. And then something that I think is really important now is just online presence and marketing in general. There's loads of AI tools that can help you create posts very easily, help you basically repurpose and reformat video posts if you're doing videos for candidates or clients as well, like podcasts, things like that. But ultimately, what it boils down to and what I'm going to share today is sort of the business development aspect of that. Because business development, sort of candidate sourcing can be the same as sales, effectively a bit of a numbers game. So how can we maximize the numbers that we're doing on our business development and maximize the conversions of these numbers with minimal effort, right? Once again, we don't want to have to manage a massive team or do all of this ourselves, because we want to be this person here sitting on the beach drinking a cocktail. That's the end goal, right? That's what we want, and AI will help us do that. So business development AI campaigns, a lot of it does come down to, as I mentioned, pumping in big numbers, right? We still want to be targeted and relevant with the outreach you're doing, but AI helps you speed this process up very quickly. And allows you to get in front of a lot more people, because honestly, from what I've noticed working with a lot of recruiters and a lot of B2B businesses in general, a lot of people's businesses would grow if just simply more people knew about them. And I'm sure that's probably how you might feel. You just need to generally be in front of more people to grow your business. Advertising is very expensive, however, to achieve that. Content can take a very, very long time to take off the ground. So that's why I think that sort of outbound and email marketing and using AI for that can really help you. You can just get in front of hundreds of people on a daily basis that are your dream customers. It's very hard to achieve that otherwise, and especially doing it by yourself. So I won't bore you with all the technical stuff just yet. I'll probably get onto that in a little bit. But this is effectively an infrastructure that we've built for our business. It comprises of email and LinkedIn, and the infrastructure is sending out anywhere from 300 to 1,000 emails a day. 50 points of contact on LinkedIn per account, which can be scaled to multiple accounts.
Harry, can you expand the slides to
yes, I should be able to.
The other view.
Okay, the view. Yeah, my apologies. Is that better now? Can you see that?
Yeah, it's better.
My apologies. Cool, perfect. So, of course, yeah, part of it is just the infrastructure. So this is sort of like the engine behind everything. And right now, the engine might just be you. It might be a couple of VAs. It might be a big SDR team, or it might be AI itself. But what we've found is that to have AI and automation as the infrastructure makes everything a lot easier, right? You can have an infrastructure that will be sending hundreds of emails a day, multiple LinkedIn messages, completely on autopilot. And that's sort of the first step, right? That won't get you to a very, very successful business development campaign, but the other bits that we've discussed, but that is the first sort of step, not having you to do all the manual outreach yourself. We want the infrastructure to do that. So from there, once we have that in place, it's really important to split test and find out what the winning campaign is for your audience, what resonates with them the most, what sort of things we can say to get responses. And I'll go into that in terms of script writing in a little bit. But a lot of it is trying different things and getting insights on basically directions of markets through back-to-back testing so many different things and letting data inform our decisions, right? As soon as we get responses as well, we want to have appointment setters that can kick in, arrange meetings, and then book calls, and then go through basically a post-booking workflow as well, which has helped close rates on calls for our clients, as well as potentially getting larger deals and more retained deals. So when someone books a call, if we're able to direct them to material and content about, if you're trying to sell a retained service, why retained is actually cheaper for clients than contingent, the cost of a bad hire, what it actually means for them, you can basically nurture them with all of this content before they join a call with you. So then the seed's already planted in their mind. Because what a lot of people do will just book the call, and once the call's booked, that's it. You just leave it until you join the call. But it gives you a window of time, even if it's a few days, to just get as much content, as much material in front of that person as possible to basically pre-frame the call. That's what we've seen made a big difference to conversions on calls that we take. So basically, to see how powerful email and AI can be, we want to basically break business development down to its core very, very simplistically. I know there'll be a lot more that goes into business development than just this. But the way that we see it is, of course, we can find open jobs. That's one of the things that business development people will be doing on a day-to-day basis. Finding contact information, actually sending messages, emails, and doing calls, and of course, consistent follow-ups. So we're seeing how automation AI can help us do each of these things. So I'll get into something a little bit more substantial now, something I can actually show you, and tools that you can use. And these are ones that we use to basically scrape open jobs at high volumes. So say, for example, and this is where I'll ask the audience, so if there's any particular job that you would look for on, say, let's say you're looking on LinkedIn. I basically want to show you a tool how you can get high volumes of that very, very quickly. So if I go to the chat, someone want to put in a chat a job title that you want me to do a search for, and how I basically get all of that data off LinkedIn in a short time period, basically.
Geotechnical engineer.
Geotechnical engineer.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll put VP of sales first, and then I'll do your one after some. But we've got VP of sales, fantastic, right? So this is one of the tools that we use. It's called Apify. There's a few different ones that we can use. Forgive me, that's my spreadsheet. So we've got one called Clay. I'm not sure if people have heard of Clay. It's a very powerful tool. I'll show you that as well. But one that we like to use is apify.com. So what this is actually you can create an account on here for free. It's a free tool. And you can basically rent scrapers that people have custom built. So one that I like to use is called LinkedIn Job Scraper. So basically create a free account on Apify, buy the trial for, or start the trial for LinkedIn Job Scraper. And all you simply need to do is put in the job title that you would put on LinkedIn, put the location, put how many jobs you want to find. The limit, I believe, is 1,000, so I always have it set to 1,000. You can see ones that were published in the last 24 hours, in the last week, past month. I'll leave this open for now. You can also, if you just wanted to see hybrid roles, you could see that as well, and type experience level, all these things. But what I'll do is I'll press start, and we will see that this scraper will start working. Right, so this is basically mimicking exactly the same as if you were to go on LinkedIn and just put VP of Sales in that search bar on LinkedIn jobs. All right, so I'll just let this start running. But we can do some really, really good things with this data. I'll go on to that in a second, but I'll just let this start running and I'll see. So you can see already we've got very good data around this job, when it was posted. We even have number of applicants as well, right? And we can just download this as a CSV or a spreadsheet after it's done. So we should be able to get this, very, very quickly. You can see these ones took around 7 minutes or 8 minutes to get 333 contacts, and it cost us about 30 cents. So really, really cheap. Once again, this is on the free trial, so you don't actually have to pay anything. It gives you $5 of usage for free, which is really good. But this will just keep running in the background. Now, hopefully when I show you what we can do with this, it will be a bit more exciting as well. But ultimately, the reason why this is so good is because VAs are pretty cheap, right? They're not very expensive, but ultimately, before the use of all these tools, VAs would be doing this, and it'd probably take them a few hours to build up lists of a few hundred, which, it's not a massive cost, but if you can save time and save money using a tool as opposed to VA, that's what we would opt for, right? Apify is just one of these. Clay is another really good one. What Clay can do very successfully is find all of the jobs that have recruiters attached to them. So Apify is doing this as well. So recruiters or hiring managers, whoever the person is, with the open jobs, a percentage of them will have a hiring manager attached to the job. And Apify will pull this data in as well, pull in their LinkedIn profile. But we can do that directly from Clay as well. So if I go into Clay, which I believe has a free trial as well. So you can play around with this if you just want to have a look. But we can do a similar thing. So this is one of my old accounts. So I haven't got any credits on here, but I think I've got a way to actually do this completely for free. So let's have a go. Once again, finding jobs from LinkedIn. So it takes you to this dashboard. I'll just put in VP of Sales in here. I'll put in the location as United States. And what I want to do, if you use Clay, is you want to tick this to find all of the jobs that have a recruiter or hiring manager attached to the job. That's just basically going to save you loads of time. Instead of going through the results on Apify and taking out all of the ones that don't have a hiring manager attached, you can just basically toggle on this, and it only gives you the results with a hiring manager attached to the job. So I'll let this continue to run. Let's see how this one's getting.
Is there a reason why we want the hiring manager's name?
Sometimes the reason why we would do that is basically just to upload them to a LinkedIn automation or an email automation. We can, of course, find it based off the job title of the company. So what I mean is sometimes we just want to reach out to the jobs or the hiring manager of that job if they're attached to it on the LinkedIn job. Probably oftentimes you don't want to do that as well. And that's where you would just basically find the person who would be in charge of the role from this company. So we've got a couple options of enriching it, but this is basically the reason why you do this first, just to save time potentially. So you could find all of the roles you've got that do have a hiring manager attached, so you can reach out to them. And then all the ones that don't, you would go and enrich to find the hiring manager or the contacts that you want to speak to at the company. But this can just save a little bit of time, because you can create a column for this recruiter's URL. Let's see if this works. And then say, for example, who's the recruiter on this one? So we've got the partner, CEO, and CIO here, right? So you can just basically,
So they're not always recruiters. Sometimes they'll be the CEO or the director of sales or whatever.
most of the time it will be, yeah, the person in charge of this position. So the either CEO, founder, owner, if it's like a high level position, maybe if it's just like an engineer or something like that, it would be an engineering manager or someone above usually the role that we're looking for. So it won't always just pull in like a recruiter. And to be honest, we don't want to be pulling in, we don't want to be speaking to other recruiters a lot of the time. We want to be speaking to key decision makers. So that's why sometimes you just want to vet this list. But oftentimes it does pull in the key contact that we want to speak to. This person, not so much. So sometimes it will be 50-50, but the best way to do it, if you know you want to speak to the key decision maker, as we probably do, would just be from this list that we've pulled from Clay or Apify without ticking the recruiter bit. We could just basically put this list into another enrichment tool to find who the relevant contacts would be. You can do that in Clay. So I don't actually have any credits in this account, but say, for example, you wanted to find who the right contact would be. Say we want to reach out to the CEO at this company. You would basically add an enrichment in Clay that would allow you to find who the CEO is. So it's got loads of enrichments. This is basically just adding more data. So I would go find contacts at companies. So what this does is when I press play on it, say for example, it's in a new table, it will, oh, my apologies. It will basically find the person based off the job title that we put in. So let's just save in this table. It's great. So company identifier. So this is the company domain. So it will research based off the company domain who it thinks the CEO is, because that's the job title we're looking for. So it's going to search this company, find the CEO. We can also go super targeted with it. You could put other job titles in. You can put, say you only want to find a manager that's been at the company for 5 years. You can do that as well. Put all of these fields in. There's a lot of stuff that you can play with here. And you can limit your results. So say you only want to reach out to 2 people at each company, you can limit it to 2, and then you just continue, and you could pull their name. Let's see what other data we've got, their location, their LinkedIn URL, date of birth. Sometimes I'm not sure it'll pull it for every single one. Loads of data on them, and you'd just save that, and that would start running in this table as well. I think
Harry, Dan asked if you can use Apify and Clay together.
You can use them together. A cheap alternative for you. So I'm going to show you. You can absolutely do that. And what you do is okay. So this one's done. So we've got 305 results that I can export as a CSV. So what you do is you'd export your results from Apify. So let me just download this, and I'll show you what the results look like. I'll just call it Apify data set. And then you could basically upload this into Clay. So say I just wanted to create a new table in Clay. And let's say I wanted to import these companies. So I'd import companies, browse this file, upload this, and it would basically pull it into Clay. And then you could do you could do that enrichment I just shown you, find the contact at the company, and you could do that, and that would help you obviously build out that list, and Clay would help you do that. So yeah, you can get them to speak to each other. There may be actually, no, in fact, there is an automation where you can start scraping on Apify and automatically push it into Clay using Zapier. We used to do that. So that's more of a custom build. I'm happy to show people how to do that in maybe a longer session. But you can absolutely do that. You can get them to speak to each other. So what we've got here, this is the data we just pulled from Apify. You can see we've got how many people have applied to this role, what the company's called, the company URL, the job description, which I can show you some great things with in a minute. Of course, the job URL as well, when it was posted, who posted it, all of this information. All right, of course, the title of the role as well. And then say from here, you wanted to find the CEO of each of these companies. We would just enrich. We would find contact at company, save it in this table, pull in the company URL and type CEO, and then boom, just go on, and it will basically pull the CEO from the LinkedIn page. So this once again mimics something that's previously quite manual. Instead of going to LinkedIn, going on a company page and, you know, finding who the CEO is, what we can do is we can use Clay to speed up that process. So instead of going to, let's say, this company, and whilst it's loading, view as a member, instead of going to people and searching through and trying to find who the right person is, doing this, you know, quite manually, you would just put it in Clay, ask who you want to find, so the CEO, and it will give you that data back. So that's what it can be really good for. It can be really good for building lists and building data on that. You know, on a pretty short time scale. Like we've pulled 300 plus job openings, and we could find all of the data on that very, very quickly. Of course, finding contact info, Clay was one of them, but also we've got one called Lead Rocks. So I'm not sure if anyone's heard of Lead Rocks, but the way I
like Lead Rocks,
I like it quite a lot of the time, yeah, because what I'd like to do is get the LinkedIn URLs, and I find it very good for actually personal phone numbers sometimes. But I suppose it's different what you're trying to find. If you're just trying to find emails, it's probably not the best tool. But if you're trying to find other data, it can be pretty good. Have you had experience with it before then?
Huff asks, can you do by industry software manufacturing, for example? And I'm assuming he's asking about Clay or Apify.
Yeah, sorry, 1 second. Is there a question in there? Can you do by industry software manufacturing, for example? On
Clay,
Clay,
are you asking, Huff, are you asking
sorry.
about in the Apify app?
Well, in
you narrow it to industry.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, so in Apify, what you'd want to do is because it can pull such large data sets, you wouldn't be able to put the industry in there. But what you do is if you upload it into Clay, you would just use sector and you do a filter on here. Or you could do something called conditional formatting. There's two ways to do this. But what you could do is just filter. So say you just wanted to have a particular sector, say it was manufacturing. So maybe I just put in the keyword manufacturing, then it would just show me all of the jobs open in a manufacturing sector. So sector contains the word manufacturing. Right. Then obviously there's different types of manufacturing.
The software instead of manufacturing.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
So then we've got software development, IT services, and IT consulting. So sometimes it will pull in multiple. But yeah, that's usually the way you do it, is you do it on the sector. You can do it in Clay if you're doing it from Clay originally. But this is how I'd usually do it. It's just I'd narrow it down after I've got the big data set based off the sector. There's also other things you could do, like you could do the filter on the description instead. So if the job description has a word software in there or has a keyword of software, then you could filter it down based off that. There's two different ways you could target. But yeah, ultimately you could target in Clay. If you don't want to do Clay, then I'll show you this as well. You can put everything into Google Sheets and do it in here. And I'll show you how you can do it for very, very cost effectively, but also create like very personalized emails using just Google Sheets. But I will get onto that in a second.
And Harry, just the reason I asked about Lead Rocks is Lead Rocks has been on AppSumo forever, and it's $79 for 5,000 credits, but the reviews are 50-50 in my opinion, and that's why I was asking you if you thought it worked, because a lot of us use SalesQL, Apollo, Lusher, whatever, but for $79, I mean, and one-time payment for 5,000 a month, why not? So you're getting good results from it.
I am, yeah. For the numbers, it's pretty good. I think overall, maybe SalesQL has a slightly higher percentage, but just from a cost standpoint, it's extremely cost effective. I think I paid for about 4 codes worth, so maybe what's that, $200 and something in total, and I get 20,000 credits.
$316 for 4 codes, and if you stack them, you get what, 50,000 leads a month and 50,000 verifications. So I guess you're right.
It's forever, you know. So it's absolutely crazy. It's really, really powerful. But ultimately, the best, you know, if you're just maximizing for conversions, looking at other tools is going to help as well. a mixture of all of them is always going to be the best, and that's actually what Clay does. It has a built-in sort of built-in thing called waterfall enrichment. So say, for example, we want to find the email address of a particular contact. You would go in and you just type in work email. Now, what this does is it has access to all of the databases, right? So first, you can add other providers as well, like Apollo, Snovio. So if this really is really successful for finding hard to find email addresses. So everyone's targeting Apollo leads. Everyone. So if you're just using Apollo to build your data, it can be sort of difficult. If you're using something like Clay, which of course is a little bit more expensive, but you'll basically find it much easier to get emails that no one else has access to, because what it will do is it will first search Prospeo, do a full scrape of their database. If it can't find it, then it will go on to drop contacts. If it can't find it there, then it will go on to this tool. If it can't find it there, and so on, right?
Do you have to pay for all these tools, or is that included in Clay?
That's included in Clay. It's cheaper to pay for each of the tools. Clay can be expensive. But yeah, you don't have to. You don't have to pay for all the tools.
And have you used Zoom Info to bring in information? I've got Talent OS, so it's only like 1,000 to spreadsheets, but
yeah, yes. So Zoom Info, I found Zoom Info really good for mobile numbers. Actually, I thought that was one thing that it was useful for. But ultimately, any database you have, as long as you can export something as a CSV, you can import it into another one, like Clay or like Google Sheets, right? So it's very seamless having that integration, which is nice. But yeah, that waterfall enrichment is something that's very cool. So that's one of the bits of data. I'm very happy to continue. Just, we can go off topic if things pop up that seem interesting. Let's just dive into it. So that's a little bit on finding contact info and finding job openings. Okay, so we clearly see we've got capability to find a lot of data. Say you just spent half a day doing this, or just a morning doing this 1 day a week. You could build up lists of thousands of prospects. So now we've got all of them. It's all about, how can we maximize the engine to actually reach out to all of them? This is where something that's sped up our process for business development significantly is just a multi-account strategy. So whether it's multi-inbox through email, we typically hook up anywhere from 20 to 30 accounts for each of our clients on email. Or if it's a multi LinkedIn account strategy, just having multiple accounts allows you to safely send out a high volume of outreach, effectively bypassing limits. It's not really bypassing any limits, but you're just sending it from more accounts. Okay, and it's the only difficult thing here is the setup, the technical setup. So for email, I'll go into I don't usually do this, but I'll go into our actual platform that we use and see how many email accounts we've got hooked up currently and how many we've got sending, all from one place as well. We can all manage this within one inbox. So this is across clients. We've got over 1,000. So we're managing over 1,000 inboxes currently. So that's 1,000 email accounts. And that's made very easy to do with tools like SmartLead. Of course, it would be absolutely crazy. You wouldn't need to set up as many as 1,000, but setting up 20 can be really good, because you can be sent 30 emails account per domain, or per 30 emails out per account. So times by 20, you can be sending 600 a day consistently, at a safe volume. So that's why a multi-inbox strategy is really important, which I'm sure.
Well, one of the things you mentioned, Harry, was you don't like to do like prsearchinc.net, prsearchinc.com, prsearchinc.org. You like to do pr.search.com, prsearch.inc.com. Like you want it to be the same name with like dots in between or dashes in between with a .com. Is that correct?
Yeah, we found it's a very small difference, but I used to be an engineer, so I'm a bit of a data and number nerd. And when we were looking at the data on domains we were testing, we always found a .com domain just performed slightly better. I think it's because main objection we see with cold email stuff and email marketing is people don't trust emails. They think they're getting an email from someone new, and it's a spam, it's a scam, it's all of this stuff. For some reason, I don't know if it's just a psychological thing, people seem to trust a .com email more than just like a .business or a .marketing or something like that. It won't make a night and day difference. It's not a problem. But it's just what we prefer to do, to be honest.
And also, if you're doing that, point every single one of those email address URLs to your true URL. So if someone does copy and paste that URL into Google, it goes to your website and not to some currently parked place.
Exactly. So if I share it again, I'll probably show some email accounts that I'm sending from. So if I just put quiet in here, let's say we've got Harry.L. This one's a bit different. We've got .biz here. So we do other ones as well. It's not always .com. But let's say if someone receives this email and they go, looks like a bit of, not sure about a domain. Let's see the website. Hopefully this will actually redirect to our main website, which it does. And you just have this for every single one. So it effectively makes all of the email accounts that we're sending from look like they're, my actual email account. And that's really important. And it's the same if you're doing this on LinkedIn. You want to use Teams LinkedIn accounts, like someone in the team, or if you've got a virtual assistant, just ask to rebrand their LinkedIn, put a different picture on, make it look like it's part of the team. You just want to make everything look seamless and organic to your potential clients and to your prospects.
How do you do the multi-LinkedIn account strategy? Let's say for our we have Tony, Emily, Sage, Jeff, myself, right? So how would you do that? Would I have to have 3 Thomas Alashio accounts, or would I be using Jeff and Anthony's or Tony's?
Yeah, great question. So you'd be using the Teams accounts, and we use a tool called HeyReach. So we used to use Dripify. I'm not sure if people heard Dripify. We're moving over to one called HeyReach because you can manage multiple accounts. This one you can manage loads of accounts, like 50 plus accounts, all from one place. And you can manage the campaign with multiple accounts. So what I mean by that is, say you build up a list of 1,000 prospects or 5,000 prospects that you want to reach out to. And usually what you'd have to do with most LinkedIn automation tools is break the list down or just upload the list into each of the accounts. And you might have some crossover and you would have to manage the inboxes from different places. What you could do with this tool called HeyReach is hook up all of your team's accounts into one place. And every time you have a campaign, you only need to create one campaign and it distributes that between the accounts, if that makes sense. So
yeah, if we don't have Sales
about...
Navigator, then it's 500, or we can do 300 a week. So that times 5, that's 1,500 a week. You could do with 1,500 emails a week. Okay.
Absolutely. So that's why we think LinkedIn's a really, really good strategy at the moment, especially if you're using multiple accounts, because you can use tools like HeyReach, just create one campaign, hook loads of LinkedIn accounts up to it, manage all of the replies from one inbox, and not worry about contacting the same people. So that's why HeyReach is super, super powerful. But Dripify is really good as well as a tool. We've used that before and we didn't have any issues. So, but ultimately, the whole premise of speeding up business development and boosting business development is scaling it sort of horizontally. So building up more of a base, a foundation, which is done by multiple accounts. So that's the main premise of that here. Whether it's email accounts or LinkedIn accounts, more accounts will always be useful to you as you're doing your business development. And of course, consistent follow-up. This is a really basic one. Of course, the automation tools will just help you follow up. There's a very fine line between, and I think this is a topic for discussion as to how many times people think, you should follow up with someone. I'm a believer in not doing such hard follow-ups, but consistently following up people over a long period of time, because I'm sure you get this, when you speak to your prospects, not everyone's in the position to move forward with you or use your service at a given time, but there will be a time when they probably are. And it's just about staying top of mind. So we like to incorporate follow-ups with automation, because otherwise, if you've got it in your CRM or something and you have to do it manually every time, it's going to be very difficult to manage. If you just set up an automated process for constantly staying top of mind for people, even if it once every 2 weeks, once every 3 weeks, just a check-in message, we like to automate those, because it seems like a message that wouldn't really be automated. Not a lot of people would automate that, but it just helps you start more conversations and keep top of mind for people. So that's what you can use these automation tools for as well. So these are a couple of tools that you can use. Of course, Clay, LeadRocks. I've said no need to Zoom Info. You do get very good data off Zoom Info. Smart Lead, instant data scraper. I can
Did
show you
show
instant data.
instant data scraper? Is that the one that looks like a little Pokemon extension?
It's the little Pokeball, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It is. I've got a great bit for that. I'll get onto that in a second, actually. But I'll quickly show you instant data scraper if you think this will be useful. What we use, I think I just need to open another Chrome tab. Let me see if I can. So what I like to use instant data scraper for is for Apollo data. You can build big lists of Apollo data without having to purchase the Apollo plan. You can do this completely for free. And we just do this off. Yeah, you can. So let's create a bit of a search. Just fire at me some job titles that you want me to build a list for, and then I can show you how we can get this data for free.
Anyone? Maintenance manager.
Maintenance manager. Okay, perfect.
Chief bottle washer.
I'll put maintenance. I'm not sure how many will pop up, so I'll put maintenance manager there for now. I'll put it as states here. Right. I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller. Let's say between companies of 10 and 20 in size. That's great. We've got 1.8k leads. We don't want to spend, even though it's probably only like $50. I still don't want to spend $50 extracting all of this information. So I use my little Pokeball, which is a completely free Chrome extension, and I go here. Now, what this does is it automates a manual process. So as you can see, it's got a thing here called Locate Next button. I've already configured this. I'm just going to move this out of the way. But basically what you want to do is, if you're using Instant Data Scraper, locate the next button on the tool you're using. This doesn't just work for Apollo. It basically works for any website apart from LinkedIn. I think they've got a little inside deal with LinkedIn. But any website. And you basically you can see I've got a green highlight here on the next button. So it will press it for me, basically, is what this means. So it asks me to locate it. I don't need to because I've already done it. I've already used it before. But you just locate the next button on any website that you use, and it will press that for you when it realizes it gets to the end of the search results of that page. So if I just go here, this is all the data I'm getting. So I'm, of course, getting this person's name. I'm getting the LinkedIn URL, the company name, all of this other data. And all I need to do is press this lovely button on here on Instant Data Scraper, and I can sit back and relax. And if you look at the Apollo screen, I'm pulling all this data. So you can see I've got
doing that
over 100.
automatically?
Yeah, I'm not pressing anything. So I've got 200 rows of data in 12 seconds, and it's all here. And it will just keep going until it maxes out on Apollo, which is 100 pages. So I can pull 100 pages off Apollo in a couple of minutes.
It's not giving you their contact information though, right, Harry?
Yes, so that's exactly right. And that's why we use lead rocks for this, because what we would get is you get their LinkedIn URL. If you want to, you can access their mobiles, but you have to do that on more of a manual basis. So what we use this for is we use this to get their LinkedIn URL. That's the only piece of information that I'm interested here. And then we would upload this to another database, whether it's Clay. We use lead rocks because it's super easy. And it's effectively, basically free as well after you've made that first $79 a month purchase. But you can use other tools for that. Yeah, Clay is another one.
Loxo users, you guys could take this CSV, put it into Loxo, and use your contact scraper in Loxo to get the email and phone numbers.
Harry, when you did the crawl, did you press the Locate Next button first, and then you press the Start Crawling?
That's what you would do. Once you've already configured it once, you don't need to do it again. So it already had it pre-saved for me, basically.
And to configure it, you just, when you hit locate, you punched the button that said Locate Next button, and then you clicked on the arrow that's now green. It wasn't green before, and when you clicked on it, it turned green, and then that way it knew from now on always to click that button.
Exactly. So as you can see now, I just clicked on that Locate Next. So if I just click on this one, for example, now it's got the backwards one highlighted. So if I go to here and I start scrolling, I don't know if it works. It's still going forward for me.
Okay.
But I think it's because it was midway through the crawl. But if you've done that from the beginning, yeah, I think if I abandoned this and started again, it would probably go backwards. But that's how you'd do it. You just click on that Locate Next button.
This is amazing that and anyone can use Apollo to do this without paying for anything.
Yeah, exactly. So that's all I've shown you there. That's completely free.
But it won't work on LinkedIn sales now to get
It won't work. Unfortunately not. Unfortunately not. That would be good. There's one called Find Email that will work on LinkedIn. In terms of LinkedIn safety, you don't need to worry about that in terms of your account, because this is just going directly through Apollo. So there's no affiliation with you. You can do this without having a LinkedIn account. There's no affiliation to your LinkedIn account at all. So there's no worries about that. But yeah, I see that as well. Yeah, that's a good. Anywhere you can upload your LinkedIn URLs to is very useful. Sorry,
Harry, do you have an alternative to? I don't think InstaScraper does PDFs, or I don't know if these are PDFs I've got here.
PDFs for what?
I've got a tool that'll give me full org charts, but I can't scrape them with instantly. And I don't know if it's. Anyways, maybe I'll send you a. Maybe
send me a
HTML.
message. I think I've got something that could work. It's an AI solution, but I think I've got something that could work. It can scan PDFs and pull data from them. Yeah,
it seems. I don't. This is some sort of a dynamic page that instant data scraper doesn't allow me to do, and I need to automate it. So cool.
There is another one as well called Bardeen.ai. I don't want to overwhelm you with all these tools, but this one's much more comprehensive than instant data scraper. So this one, Bardeen, would probably work on that website. It's just a little bit more complex to set up, and I think it costs around $10 a month. So it's not completely free. But nonetheless, it's a great one a great alternative that you can have a look at. And then, of course, you've got other automations you can use. Zapier, Go High Level are also really good ones. But I know this was one of the questions that I think Huff had about what scripts we can actually use that make a real difference. And this is sort of things that I've noticed running the scripts that we have and what's worked across the board. So you basically, what we've seen to work is you need to stand out and be remembered. If you can give the prospects what they truly want, they'll be more likely to engage. This is like the number one thing that stood out for us. If you can give the prospects what they truly want, they'll be more likely to engage. And that's why, based off my experience, if you have a good most placeable candidate and great most placeable candidate, those campaigns do work. Just because a lot of the time, if the company is in need of someone like that and you're able to potentially give them that person or give them access to that person, then they can convert really highly. So that's really what I've noticed in terms of the business development campaigns. Now, some structures and scripts, I can go into some actual campaigns we're running and show you the insides of those. Before I do that, there's a little bit more on it. Obviously, short and sweet, open-ended to encourage a conversation, and end outcome orientated. So everything, obviously, we want to sell our end outcome, not our process. We don't want to talk necessarily about how we do things, but just what the end result of it is. And oftentimes, if a company really needs someone, marketing a candidate can be very successful. And I'll show you a way which is sort of pushing the boundaries of this as well. If you want to do this, it's just a great way to stand out. But then it ties into different sales approaches as well. It's not something that's recommended for everyone, but it's just an interesting way of looking at it. It's something quite different and quite new. So what we've done in the essence of this to basically create a great most placeable candidate is we found a way that we can integrate this with Google Sheets. So this looks extremely messy, but I can tidy this up. But what I've done is, before this call, I just scraped another search of Appify for, I believe this is, was this finance directors or something? Directors of finance in Canada, right? So this is just straight from Appify, the straight search there. And this is giving me all of this data. So it's giving me the job that's open, number of applicants, but most importantly, it's giving me the job description for every single one. So there's a lot of data in here, very data heavy, but I've got it all in this spreadsheet and every single one has the job description. What I've been playing around with, what we're able to do now, is actually use GPT in Google Sheets. So you don't need to use Clay to do this. You can integrate it straight with Google Sheets by going to extensions, and it's actually an add-ons. You get a free add-on and it's called GPT for Sheets. So you can integrate ChatGPT into your Google Sheets. Now, what we do here is we want to give, like any AI or any GPT, you want to give it a prompt. This is just a very simplistic prompt that I created before this call, and it says create three very short bullet points summarizing what the perfect candidate would be for this role based off the job description. Only include details about the candidate in concise bullet points, no other info. So basically, I'm asking it to give me what this person is looking for, what the hiring manager is looking for in this job. So here, and this without me reading it. So here, it's obviously looking for a CPA certified with a minimum of 5 years in combined accounting and finance roles, blah, 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 all this stuff. And the beauty of this is you're able to do this at scale. So I can basically I will, 1 second, just copy one of these, go down to here, and just pull this down for loads of these. So that's the prompt. And then all we need to do here is basically put this into a GPT function. So equals GPT, highlight this, and hopefully it will pull the 3 bullet points. The reason why you might want to do this, and maybe it takes some cleaning in this Google Sheet, which will take 5 or 10 minutes to clean up, would be you could export this CSV, put it into your email sending software. Maybe I'm sure it would allow you to do custom variables in Loxo or SmartLead or Instantly, and you could have this as a custom variable. So as well as saying, hey, name, and it would pull in the name from the spreadsheet, you could say, hey, name, I saw you're looking for and then pull in the job title, a corporate controller with, and then this is a custom variable with CPA certificate. This is a bit extensive. I'll probably shorten this down with the prompt, but you could list to them exactly what they're looking for. And we can do this at scale because all it would be is taking this GPT prompt, finding it down, and now it's just loading them. So it's creating all these bullet points in the back end. You can see here, okay, it's just loading for some of them. Sometimes we need to refine the script slightly, like the prompt, so it doesn't pull in other information. You can see I have asked it to not pull in other information, but sometimes it will. So we'll just go back and rechange the script. But you can see here we've got strong proficiency in these qualifications, stuff like this. So basically we would just check all of these, make sure they all make sense, and upload this into an email campaign. So every single, maybe it's a CFO we're reaching to, every single CFO gets a different email that's personalized based off the job description, if that makes sense. And you can just do this at super high scale because you can just continue to pull this down in the spreadsheet, and we could do this for every single one, right? I really only came across this very recently, and we're just rolling it out now. So it's a very powerful tool. Now I thought, let's go a step further with this. I don't just want to pull this data. I want it to get me to write the full email, completely automated. So what I've got here is an example of a prompt I put in. It says create a very short bullet pointed summary of what the perfect candidate would be for this role, and create an email around how we have that person. Keep it very concise and short, exactly tailored to the job description of this role. And then I've included the job description of the role. And this is an email. Once again, this is a not optimized prompt. I wouldn't push this out, but this is just the first time you're reading it. Dear hiring manager, I hope this obviously we don't want to say I hope this finds you well, but I'm introducing an exceptional candidate for a controller position at company name. And it's got all of the stuff they're looking for in the job description and why this candidate is a perfect match for them, right? And you could just, once again, pull this down for all of the data, get AI to write all of the emails, and get this sent off into your sending software, whether it's Loxo or SmartLead or Instantly or something like that. And that's what we've been able to put together.
We can create a resume that's perfect for that job and put a name on it.
Exactly.
Attention, right?
Exactly. So it's a very good way to get hiring managers' attentions, right? If they're looking for someone and we create the perfect candidate for them with AI and tell them we've got that person, we've just seen it get a lot of responses. So that's one thing that you can do, and you don't have to do Clay. You don't have to use Clay to do that. I think this one with Google Sheets, the reason I've done it in Google Sheets because it's so much cheaper. Let's see, I think I put like $20 in, and I probably ran 1,000 lines through this, and it's cost me, let's see how much budget I've got left.
And you're using their API?
Yes. Yeah. So I'm using my GPT API. Yeah. So just hook it up. So I've got $14 left. So you can see to what decimal it goes down to in the dollars. So it's not very expensive, which is good. You can run a lot through it. But that's something I'd definitely
Yeah,
recommend.
I found out that running the GPT API is really cheap because I use it with Mano, and it's
Mhm.
literally like
Mhm.
pennies after you do 1,000 things. It's wild how cheap it is.
Yeah, it's really, really powerful. So it's honestly, it was a great tool for us to use. So ultimately, if you want to use AI to write your scripts and make them super personalized but at scale, that's a great way to do it. Once again, Clay can do a similar sort of thing, just honestly probably 20 to 30 times more expensive. So Google Sheets will be the one for that. That's pretty much everything I had. I've got, of course, this is a little self-promotional slide. If you want to piece it all together, you can either spend hours or a lot of money trying to do it yourself, or work with a growing team in the AI space like ourselves. So I'm happy to answer any questions. That's pretty much
Shameless
my
plug.
little bit.
Nothing wrong with that. That's why
I'd
you're
throw
here.
it in there, but yeah, but no, you know, that being said, the main reason why I want to be here is just to provide some value, show stuff that we're able to do, and you're able to replicate as well, just with the right tools and the right, you know, AI and software. So yeah, I'm more than happy if you throw some questions at me. What are the stats on ROI? Great question. Now, this, from what we've experienced, depends massively on some external factors, such as the industry you're targeting, such as the total addressable market. There's all of these different factors. In terms of ROI for these tools, we've been able to close like big multi-6-figure deals for our clients through just cold emails like the ones that you've seen today. So it can have a very, very, very strong ROI, you know, talking like double-digit ROI. But it really depends, of course, on the level of saturation of markets is what I find to be the key differentiator. Expectations of first leads. Sorry, what does that sort of, in what way do you
Timeline?
mean that? How, sorry.
How long, but I've talked with companies like this before, and they said expectation could be 2 months before things start rolling, because obviously it's a long-term approach.
Yeah, so once again, it really, I would say the split testing is really important in terms of like just testing different emails, testing different messages to find what works. We've had in the past campaigns where leads have come through in the first few days. It's not going to happen for everyone, but ultimately, if you're sending these amount of emails and this amount of messages, and they're pretty personalized, you will be getting responses back on day one. It's just when the right ones come through. So average timeline will probably be around 10 to 14 days for leads to start coming through for something like this.
Harry, I had a question. Even in using multiple email addresses, have you had any issues with a scenario where, for example, I have several very large clients I work with in the IT and cybersecurity space, got 50 to 100 hiring managers at one particular client company. If I'm doing campaigns off even using multiple email addresses, have you had any issues hitting that same company's email servers?
Great question. Now, we actually haven't, because the way that the campaigns are run is similar to the LinkedIn automation tool that I mentioned. We hook all of these accounts up, but they're hooked to one campaign, so one set of leads, and it's shared between these email accounts, meaning you won't be hitting the same person multiple times. And what you'd want to do as well is, if there's specific accounts you definitely don't want to reach out to, then you would add that to what we call like a block list of contacts. So even if, and that would be adding the domain, not their email addresses, because if someone new starts, it's a nightmare. If you forgot someone, it's a nightmare. So you just add the domain, and then anyone at that domain, no contact goes out to them. And that's what we find very useful. And it's a necessity. If you're running at the volume that we run at, you need to include all of these people on your block list, so you're not reaching out to them if you've got pre-existing relationships.
Harry,
let me ask you a question, please?
Go ahead.
Before I forget. Harry,
Please do.
You did the NPCs, and you did the beautiful write-up to one particular. It's specific to a company and a person. Do you do that multiple times, hitting them, or is it just one time to 100 people, or is it the same email a second time around? Do you send it out Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or do you change it, or what advice do you have there?
Great question. So we would usually go that for the first email. If we're running that campaign, we'd do that as the first email. we're not just going to email people one time and forget about them, because the likelihood of them converting is very low. But at the same time, we won't just hit them with the same email over and over again. So what will be a mix of both. We will be doing follow-ups, but it'll be a different email. These follow-up emails won't be as heavily AI generated. Thank you, Cal. Appreciate it. They won't be as heavily AI generated and personalized. They'll be more like follow-up emails, maybe with a link to a case study, maybe with a link to a video, something like that. But it's important to have follow-ups. It just won't be the same as the first email.
But that would be with an NPC.
We don't do. What we do is, the way we do follow-ups is we keep it in the same thread of messages. So if we send an email, it will be replying to the first email. So every time they get another notification, they see the first email as well. So they see that NPC every time. We're just bumping it up and then adding a little bit more if we want to in the subsequent follow-up.
The next email might say, hey, did you see this? Do you have an interest? The third one's like, hey, I don't want to bug you, but this is a great guy. He's about to go and
he's just been offered. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What was the tool that you used? What was the tool that you used? Because I'm trying to take notes to write all those customized emails in that spreadsheet.
All that was ChatGPT integrated with Google Sheets. So there's an extension that you can add on to your Google Sheets called it's literally just called OpenAI or OpenGPT or ChatGPT. I can put on exactly what it's called. I can send it to you. But you just add it on as an extension, and then you use a formula. So let me just show you again real quick. So this is the formula.
I know I'm getting a lot of questions about that one. So I take the CSV and I move it into Google Sheets, right?
Exactly, yeah. So you go to File, Import, and you just import the CSV in.
Okay, and then now I got I just scraped an Apollo one. I got 100 people in here, and now I've also enriched it because I got all the emails and everything. Now, how do I do that prompt?
So what you'd want to do is you just want to create a column called prompt. So this is obviously just to set it out. So you want two columns to create, one called prompt and one called GPT. So like you're speaking to ChatGPT, you have to write a message into it. All right, and then press the formulate button. This column is like the formulate button. It's actually doing the work. This one's giving it the information. So in the prompt, we basically want to do equals and then give it a quote. So you want to put this in a quote. So basically just give it text. And this is where you'd put the prompts in. So this is the prompts that I told it to write. So create a very short bullet. And the reason why you need to put it in quotation marks is because you need to add the other cell in there. So this is F2. This is the job description. So if we just put in create a very short bullet point summarizing the perfect candidate without the job description, of course, it has no idea what to write. So you have to write it as a formula. So it pulls in both bits of data. So it pulls in the description and the
what is that after the quotes? Is that an and F2?
Yeah. That's an and, yeah. So and then F2. Oh, F2 is basically just the cell for the job description. So I've just highlighted it there.
So you put in the job description for every individual company.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
That from the Clay or the Apify, grab the job description, right?
Yeah, so this is automatically pulled from Apify. There's no manual work done to get the job description.
Okay.
And then all you do is just pull this down. So you can see for this, it's got F2. For this, it's got F3. For this, it's got, F4, F5. So for each GPT, each message, it's personalized to that specific job description for every single one.
How does it know to stick it in there?
So the way that
cell S.
Okay, so this one is nice and simple. We literally just highlight the prompt and we put it into ChatGPT by just putting equals GPT select prompt. And then we do the same for each of them. Really nice and easy. And then this is where it generates the message.
GPT, what is that prompt? GPT equals?
GPT equals, and then select the prompt.
GPT, and then whatever the one right before it. The prompt.
Exactly. Exactly. It can be kind of complicated to get your head around when playing around with it the first time, but after, an hour or two playing around, it'll become quite clear. But yeah, that would be the way to do it.
Okay.
And I don't see many people doing this. It's I think you'll definitely stand out.
And then what is the Chrome extension that does that? What's that called?
So it's not a Chrome extension, it's an extension in Google Sheets itself.
Okay.
So if I just show you how to do that. So you go into Google Sheets, it's in this bit here called extensions. So it should be next to tools, in between tools and help. And then you want to get an add-on. Get add-on. And then it will just be, you'll type in ChatGPT, and then it will pop up here. And then you just enable the GPT functions.
Wow.
And then you're good to go.
Harry, how'd you learn all this stuff, Harry?
Good question.
My head is spinning.
That blew my mind. That one right there blew my mind. That was amazing.
I got a lot of time on my hands.
And since we're related, we're gonna do it for free here.
I just this is stuff that I had no idea.
Hey guys, you gotta keep it to yourself. I know we're broadcasting, but you gotta keep this to yourself because it can be very powerful.
Hey Harry, did you see my question?
Sorry, I didn't. What's about something like Crystal using a personality type and having that would be incredible as well. Incredible. You can change the prompt to whatever you want, right? You can change the prompt to whatever you want to change it to. So in terms of if you want to make it for a specific avatar, off camera, Tom and I were speaking about this before we started the call. You can create a custom avatar, make it speak directly to that person.
Persona for other people.
Persona.
It's called avatar or persona. And you can also put in that prompt that you had in there said write this, but you could also put in that prompt, make it sarcastic, humorous, professional, and no more than 2 sentences. And it'll also add that into, so you can put whatever you want into the prompt to make it write more like you, or to add humor to it, or to sarcasm or whatever. So that prompt can be much longer. It doesn't have to just be write an MPC write a presentation about this candidate based on this job description. You can add as me being sarcastic, business professional, and humorous.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing you could probably do is tell it to misspell one word.
For me, yeah.
Yeah.
If you tell it to misspell one word, you're thinking you're writing it yourself.
Absolutely. I even with just the way that this is written out, where it's literally referencing the job description, not many people think it's AI written.
I'm actually blown away because that's what happens too often is you can read it and see that it's nice to see that you're in the Baltimore Annapolis area, it's like,
no one's handwriting that. No one's handwriting that.
In every ChatGPT, it always seems to say, "Hope you're having a great day. How are you doing?" And so, how do you get rid of that stuff?
I would just ask it explicitly not to say that in the prompts. If I'm going to be honest, like Tom says, if you're going to create a good prompt for this, the prompt will probably be a paragraph or 2 long. It takes a bit of time to develop a really good prompt, but when you can just drag it down. You just give it specific markers. Yeah.
I want to show. We were talking about this off screen. I want to show everybody this.
No, you showed me this last week. Where you can.
So right here in Tom Alascio. Okay, hold on. So in Tom Alascio, I pay for this, right? So if I go to customize ChatGPT right here, never start an email with "I hope this email finds you well. I hope this message reaches you well," or any similar version. Be careful not to overuse the word "that." Only use "that" in a situation where it's absolutely necessary, which won't work. You can add whatever you want. Don't use words synergy, dynamic, bandwidth, or pivot, right? So you can put into this whatever you want in custom instructions. And when you use ChatGPT, it will listen to this. You can also put stuff down here, formal, casual, long, short. How do you want to be addressed? Everything. So all this is customizable in here.
Absolutely. Yeah. Getting that prompt right is really key. I think really, really important.
Harry, have you seen any specific success with campaigns or outreaches that have a certain number of stages and sequences over a period of time, and how many stages, how many sequences? Is there an average or a typical one that you've seen more success with? And I know it depends on the wording, the verbiage.
Yeah, you're right. I do think the wording, the verbiage, and the offer inside the email is more important. But if I was to say one structure that's worked for us, it's a 3 touch point sequence. I know I said it's really good to follow up people consistently long term, and we have different campaigns for that. But if we're just doing like a direct sales campaign, we want to be touching, especially on email, we want to be touch points with people 3 times, about 3 days apart from each, 2 or 3 days apart from each. The reason why you don't want to do more than that on email is because people will just report it as spam. If you've received 10 emails from someone in 2 weeks, you're reporting them as spam. I'd block them, you know? So around 3 touch points right now is what we see to be working the best.
Okay, thanks.
Hey, Harry, subject lines that work don't work.
I'm a big believer. I've got a weird methodology around this, and it's very different to everyone else. Or I think it is. I like to use something that we call like internal camo or internal camouflage. I want to make it look like it's come from someone in the team. I don't want it to look like it's a professional email. I want it to look super informal and just super friendly. So what I would do, maximum 2 words, all lowercase, either just the referencing the job opening. So for that director of finance, I'd just put director of finance role, or basically the most simple thing I could think of, all lowercase, and just give nothing away. As soon as it says our recruitment services or how we can help you or something like that, no one's going to click on it. But if it looks like it's come from someone else internally and it's about something important or our chat or our conversation, they'll open it most of the time. So I don't do anything magic here. I don't even personalize it, to be honest. We just keep it really short, lowercase, and just make it look informal. Make it look like a colleague has sent you an email. Yeah.
Somebody asked, are emojis discouraged because some companies block them?
Personally, yeah, I do. We only do plain text, so we don't include any images or emojis in the emails. Yeah, they can look good, but it's a lot of companies do block them.
Do you do like signature and links in the signature and that type of stuff, or do you want those not there either?
We limit it to 1 link in the signature if you can. It's getting very tough now with the restrictions from Google and stuff. You want to have as minimal links as you can get away with as possible. No links is better, but I would probably put, I think having your LinkedIn link is a very good benefit if you're going to have a link in there. Oftentimes, if you're doing high volume email, you don't want to have your website link because the detection mechanisms on Google and Outlook will recognize that your website link is different to the domain you're sending from and can flag you. So you've got these all things to consider. But yeah, we try and keep the signatures quite basic as well, because if you have a very heavy signature, that will impact your delivery rate as well.
I've always said I took out I used to have like a member of this, member of that with their little logo and stuff, and I end up taking all of that out because I even took out respond to this email info@prsearching.com at the very, very bottom for people if they got the email wrong. You know, I was supposed to say, if you got this email by mistake, respond. I got rid of that because I felt like that was causing issues. I'm a 10/10 on that mail tester still, but every now and then I'll drop down and I'll look at what I'm doing wrong.
No, that's a great tool to use as well. It's really well said. But yeah, basically the simpler you can keep them, the better. Like we just like to try and pack out the emails with, you know, stuff like the personalized elements using AI. That it's just plain text. We don't include anything crazy, any crazy links. It's straight to the point, very direct. And we like to use the personalization in there as opposed to any links or anything like that. So, yeah, very basic for us.
Yeah, I've had a subject line that's worked well before. The subject line that works well is your wife's attorney.
That's one for us to test. Thank you. I appreciate the recommendation.
You mentioned, and you mentioned, hold on, let me go. I gotta go get rid of this. And early on, you were using, where is it? Smart Leads. Is that the software you're using to run all your campaigns through?
It is for email, yeah.
I think when you and I and Kelly were talking, you use spin tax in some of the emails, but if you do what you showed us with Google Sheets, you don't need to do spin tax. Is that correct?
Exactly. You won't need to because it's completely different. So what they're looking for, Google and Outlook, is this person sending 100 emails a day from different accounts, but do the scripts all look the same? Minus a couple of variables like their name and location and job title, whatever. Do the scripts look like they've just been templated? And if the answer is yes, then you're more likely to go to spam. But with this, we've got like half of the email is completely personalized to that person, completely personalized to the job description. So you wouldn't need to basically put any spin tags in that email. We'd probably still put some small bits of spin tags in there. But as you say, the whole email is just a custom piece of text. So you would not need to worry about, and your deliverability would be much better with a script like this, just because it's so different to each of them are so different to each other. Which I suppose is another benefit as well.
Yeah, I was looking. I did one with just like 80 some for a candidate, and it was the exact same email to everybody, and I got a decent open rate. But you wonder how many of the bigger companies went to spam because it was the same exact text.
Yeah, what we find is with smaller samples, it's not too much of a significant issue. It's only if we've got a sample size of say 2,000 or 1,000 or even over 500, that's when we start running into a few more issues. That's probably why your open rate is still pretty good. You know, you're probably not targeting hundreds and hundreds or thousands of people. But as you do start to do that, and there will be campaigns where you do want to do it at a much higher scale, that's probably where spin tags and stuff would be much, much more important.
I have an important question. Aren't you late for happy hour over there?
Oh, that's perfect timing. I was actually about to say I've got to shoot off pretty much now, actually. Not for happy hour, believe it or not, but
It's
I do
7:45, right? And where you are?
The clocks actually went back, so it's actually 6:45 at the moment.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So we've actually got.
Are you in Edinburgh?
No, I'm actually down south in the UK,
Okay.
a place called Brighton, hour away from London. But yeah, no, thanks for reminding me.
Last question: do you know what Mailgun is?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Does Mailgun work good enough, or do you still need the dual domains? I
haven't been using Mailgun. I think there was just some things when I looked into it, I just didn't feel comfortable. I just didn't want to use it and transition everything over to there. It's something I'm going to test out over the next few weeks, to be honest. So I'll have a look and let you know. But I've heard of it. I just haven't used it too extensively.
So basically, they run it through their server. So you use the same email address, and it just runs through their server. So you don't get flood. I don't know how, but when they get an email, it comes from Thomas at PR Search Inc., but it's going through their server some way. So apparently, it reduces your. Like I said, I'm at 1010. And now, and our firm, actually, I don't do a lot of campaigns, but Melanie was doing 500-600 emails a week, and we still have a very high 1010 rate, and she uses Mailgun. So I was just wondering if you had any experience with it, and is it an alternative to me getting 5 URLs?
I personally would always opt for the more URLs. I know it's more expensive. I would always do that from a safety aspect, because if you're sending from one server, an externally managed server, as soon as that IP or their server starts to go a little bit iffy, it's very, very hard for them to bring that back. Not saying that it will. It may be absolutely fine for the rest of the time. But if it does start to face issues, you'll find that it will go from all of your email sending fine to all of them having issues, none of them sending at all. And it's very one or the other. So I think it's usually a risk you can take, and it's probably not too much of an issue. From a safety aspect, it is better having multiple domains and spreading it across that, though. If it's working for you, I'm a big believer in if it's not broken, don't fix it, right? So if it's already working,
we don't do near the level you do. That's why I was asking. But okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody? Harry's got to go. Any more questions, real quick, before he goes?
Yeah, I have one. So we've talked about going after new prospects, and what about, I've got a big database of people that know me, but I just don't stay in touch with them frequently enough. What about campaigns related to that and using these tools, messaging? Thoughts on that?
I think that's something that really, really key to do. We call it database reactivation campaigns. You're going to get better response rates from these. You're going to probably book more calls, book more meetings. They're worth doing. I would do it the same way as we usually do it. You can import lists like these into Clay and actually find open jobs at companies if you want to, use enrichments in Clay, or you could just create a script to these people. But I would always, if you've got a database, always use it. It's a really, really valuable asset to use your database. So
hey, it's been a while kind of script.
yeah, exactly. Just, you know, reintroducing connections. They will always perform very well. So it's definitely worth doing.
Anyone
you
else
very much,
before he
Harry.
goes?
Thank you, Harry.
Nice.
Yeah, thank you, Harry.
Thank you very,
I'm
very
not
much.
Courtney, I'm not
I
Courtney.
think you have just given us a ton of information.
Thank
And I
you.
hope everyone here looks at
Thank
Harry's
you.
website and checks him out. He's very reasonable, the cost of what he does these for. And one deal is worth the cost of entry with Harry. If he gets one deal for you, one good search, and you make a $25,000 fee, it pays for Harry for the next several years.
I appreciate that, Tom. I appreciate
Highly
it.
recommend.
And Dominic
Thank you, Dom.
uses him. Dominic uses him.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate that, guys. I really appreciate the support. It's a pleasure to meet all of you. And thank you for time, Tom. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I'm happy to connect to everyone on LinkedIn. If you've got any additional questions, just fire them away. Always happy to help.
Absolutely.
Very.
And check out his YouTube channel, guys.
Thanks, Harry.
He's got a YouTube channel with a couple
Thanks, Harry.
dozen videos as well.
Perfect. Thank you. Take care, everyone. Have a
Yeah.
good evening. Bye.
So that was great, guys. I mean, that was
the one thing I always ask myself is, how do these guys remember all this shit? Like,
so
you know,
real
I
quick.
see
I'm
that-
going to turn off the streaming. I think we got a lot answered, and there's probably going to be some questions we all want to ask that shouldn't be on streaming. Sorry, viewers. So thank you all for joining Recruiter Roundtable Season 2 with Harry Latos, and we will see you not this Friday coming up because that is a Loxo users only meeting, but we will see you the following Friday. So as usual, keep smiling and keep dialing, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
Tom, yes.
Wait.